There are places the world decides to forget, and then there are places that choose to be forgotten. Daniel Marsh discovered the difference on a Tuesday in October 2024, when he noticed something that shouldn't have been possible. A town that had erased itself from existence. He found it by accident, the way most impossible things are found. Daniel was a freelance journalist specializing in digital archaeology, tracking down lost websites, deleted social media accounts, scrubbed corporate records. The internet never truly forgot anything, he'd tell his clients. Everything left traces, except Derringer Falls, Oregon. The anomaly appeared in a Reddit thread about Mandela effects and lost places. Someone claimed to remember visiting their grandmother in Derringer Falls as a child, but couldn't find it on any map. Others chimed in with similar memories: a high school football game, a summer camp, a roadside diner with the best blackberry pie, all remembered, none documented. Daniel spent 3 days searching. Google Maps showed nothing. Apple Maps, blank. Even old paper atlases in the Portland Public Library had no record of it. He checked census data, property records, even genealogy sites. Derringer Falls didn't exist, but then he found the satellite image. It was dated March 2014, captured by a weather monitoring system that archived atmospheric data. The image quality was poor, meant for tracking storm patterns, not ground detail. But there, nestled in a valley 60 miles south of Portland, was a cluster of structures that formed the unmistakable pattern of a small town. Daniel zoomed in, as far as the resolution allowed. Streets arranged in a grid. Buildings. What looked like a church steeple. A water tower. He checked the same coordinates on current satellite imagery. Empty forest, as if the town had been swallowed by trees overnight. That's when Daniel made his decision. He would drive there, document whatever he found. Maybe it was an abandoned mining town, its records lost to bureaucratic oversight. Maybe it was nothing, a trick of light and shadow on degraded satellite footage. But something in his gut told him it was neither. On October 18th, Daniel loaded his car with equipment: 2 cameras, 4 rechargeable battery packs, a laptop, his professional audio recorder, and enough supplies for a week. He'd learned to be prepared. Strange stories had a way of getting stranger. The drive should have taken 90 minutes. He followed Highway 26 out of Portland, then turned onto smaller roads, using the satellite coordinates as his guide. The GPS on his phone showed the route clearly, right until it didn't. At exactly 2:47 p.m., his GPS began spinning. The blue dot representing his location whirled in circles, unable to lock onto his position. The map flickered between views, zooming in and out randomly. Daniel pulled over and checked his phone. Full signal, internet working. But the GPS had become useless, showing him simultaneously in Portland, Seattle, and somehow Nevada. He pulled out the printed map he'd marked with the coordinates. Old school navigation. If the town existed, it should be less than 5 miles ahead. Daniel drove on. The forest pressed close to the narrow road, Douglas firs blocking out most of the afternoon sun. He hadn't seen another car in 20 minutes. No houses, no signs, nothing to indicate human presence. Then the trees opened up, and there it was. Derringer Falls, a small town nestled in a valley. exactly where the satellite image had shown it. Daniel's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Main Street stretched before him, lined with storefronts that looked frozen in time. A diner, a hardware store, a post office with an American flag hanging limp in the still air. And people, walking, shopping, living, as if the town had never disappeared at all. Daniel parked on Main Street and stepped out of his car. The air smelled like pine and something else. Something faintly metallic, like copper or old coins. He grabbed his camera and audio recorder, checking both were functioning. The timestamp on his camera read 2:51 p.m. October 18th, 2024. He approached the first person he saw, an elderly woman sweeping the sidewalk in front of a flower shop. "Excuse me," Daniel said, raising his camera. "I'm a journalist. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions about Derringer Falls?" The woman looked up, her face pleasant, but distant. "Of course, dear. We don't get many visitors." Daniel hit record on his audio device. "How long have you lived here?" "Oh, all my life. Born and raised. Never had reason to leave." Her broom continued its rhythmic sweeping. "Today's a beautiful day, isn't it? October 15th always is." Daniel blinked. "I'm sorry, did you say October 15th? "That's right. Friday the 15th. Beautiful day." "But it was October 18th. A Tuesday." Daniel checked his watch to confirm, then decided not to press the issue. "Can you tell me about the town? Its history?" The woman smiled. "Well, Derringer Falls was founded in 1887. Mining town, originally. The mine closed in 53, but folks stayed. We like it here. Quiet, peaceful. Everyone knows everyone." "And you've never had any unusual events? Anything that might have brought attention to the town?" Her expression didn't change. "No, dear. Nothing unusual ever happens here. Same as always. October 15th. Beautiful day." Daniel thanked her and moved on, unsettled. He interviewed 5 more people over the next hour. A shopkeeper, a mailman, 2 teenagers sitting outside the diner, an old man feeding pigeons. Every single one gave him similar answers. The town was normal. Nothing unusual ever happened, and each one mentioned the date, October 15th, Friday, despite Daniel's phone, watch, and camera all confirming it was October 18th, Tuesday. As the sun began to set, Daniel checked into the only hotel, a small, 2-story building called the Pinewood Inn. The clerk, a middle-aged man with kind eyes, handed him a key to room 7. "Staying long?" the clerk asked. "A few days, probably. I'm documenting the town for an article." "An article? About us?" The clerk looked genuinely puzzled. "Can't imagine why anyone would find us interesting. Nothing ever happens here. Just another Friday." That night, Daniel sat in his hotel room, reviewing the interviews. He plugged his audio recorder into his laptop and opened the first file, the elderly woman with the broom. He pressed play. "Excuse me, I'm a journalist. Would you mind if I asked you a few questions?" But the voice that answered wasn't the woman's. It was deeper, masculine, with an edge of urgency. "You shouldn't be here. The town doesn't want to be found. Turn back while you still remember the way out." Daniel's blood went cold. He stopped the recording, rewound, played it again. Same voice, same warning. He opened the second interview. The shopkeeper pressed play. A woman's voice, young and frightened. "It's been the same day for 10 years. We can't leave. Every morning we wake up and it's October 15th. 2014. Daniel's hands trembled as he opened the third file. A child's voice. They're watching you. They watch everyone who tries to remember. Fourth file. Older man, whispering. The mine. It all started in the mine. We found something we weren't supposed to find. Fifth file. Forget this place. Forget us. It's the only way to survive. Daniel sat back, his heart hammering. Every interview he'd conducted was playing back with different voices, different words. None of them matched what the people had actually said. He grabbed his camera, scrubbing through the video footage. The woman sweeping, there she was, saying exactly what he remembered. October 15th always is. But the audio from the camera matched the files. Different words. Different warnings. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. October 15th. October 15th. October 15th. October 15th. Daniel tried to call back. The number didn't exist. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he researched. Using his laptop's offline archives, he searched for any mention of Derringer Falls. Found nothing in mainstream databases. But deep in cached forums, deleted blog posts, he found fragments. A post from 2014. Has anyone else noticed Derringer Falls is gone from GPS? Another from 2015. I swear my aunt lived in Derringer Falls. Now my whole family says I'm making it up. A deleted news article from October 20th, 2014. Small Oregon town reports mass disappearance of residents. The article cut off. No full text available. And then, buried in an archived conspiracy forum, he found a post dated October 14th, 2014. The Derringer Falls mine has been evacuated. Local authorities aren't saying why. Residents report strange sounds coming from the deep shafts. Some claim the sounds are voices. We'll update tomorrow. There was no update. October 14th, 2014. One day before the date the townspeople kept repeating. As dawn broke, Daniel left the hotel. The streets were already bustling with activity. The same people doing the same things. The woman sweeping, the mailman delivering letters, the teenagers at the diner. Daniel approached the mailman. "Excuse me, can you tell me where the old mine is?" The mailman smiled pleasantly. "The Derringer mine? Closed since '53. Up the North Road, about 2 miles. Can't miss it. Beautiful day, isn't it?" October 15th. Daniel drove north, following the winding road into the hills. The mine entrance was easy to find. A dark mouth carved into the hillside, sealed with rusted metal barriers and warning signs. Danger, no entry, unstable structure. Someone had recently cut through the barriers. Fresh metal shavings glinted on the ground. Daniel grabbed a flashlight and his camera. Every instinct told him to turn back. Instead, he squeezed through the gap and entered the mine. The temperature dropped immediately. His flashlight beam cut through absolute darkness, illuminating support beams and old rail tracks. The air smelled of damp earth and that same metallic scent from town. Stronger now. He walked for what felt like 20 minutes, descending deeper. The tunnel branched several times, but Daniel followed the main shaft, the one with the freshest footprints in the dust. Then he heard it. Voices, not ahead of him, all around him, whispering, overlapping, dozens of them speaking at once. He couldn't make out individual words, but the tone was clear. Warning, pleading, desperate. Daniel's camera battery died. Then his flashlight flickered. No, 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 he muttered, smacking it. The light held. He pressed forward and emerged into a vast chamber. His flashlight revealed something impossible. The walls were covered in names, thousands of them, carved into the rock. And in the center of the chamber sat an object that made Daniel's mind struggle to process what he was seeing. It looked like a well, but wrong. The stone was too smooth, too perfect, and it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Around its edge were carved symbols that hurt to look at, shapes that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them. And from the well came whispers, so many whispers. Daniel approached carefully, camera useless now. He pulled out his phone. No signal, but the voice recorder app still worked. He hit record and leaned over the well's edge. The whispers stopped. Then a single voice emerged, clear. We are the ones who looked into the well and saw what sleeps beneath. We are the forgetting. I don't understand. The well is old, older than the town, older than the mine, older than the land remembers. The miners found it in 1952. They thought it was water. They were wrong. The voice wasn't coming from one source. It was layered. Dozens of voices speaking in perfect unison. On October 14th, 2014, the well woke up. It showed us what lay at the bottom. We saw the truth of what we are, what everything is. The knowledge broke us. We couldn't unknow it, couldn't unsee it. Daniel's hands were shaking. What did you see? If we told you, you would become like us, trapped in the knowing forever. The town, we chose this, to forget, to be forgotten. We made a pact with the well. We would give up our place in the world's memory, and in return, we would forget what we'd learned. We would live October 15th forever, the day before the knowing. The last day we were still human. But you remember now, you're talking to me, because you're bringing memory back. Every question you ask, every recording you make, it weakens the forgetting. The well allows it, because it wants to be found. It wants more souls to show its truth too. Daniel backed toward the tunnel. I'm leaving. I'm going to expose this place. The voices laughed, a sound like wind through dead trees. You think you can leave? You think you can remember? The moment you drive out of this valley, Derringer Falls will fade from your mind like a dream. You'll forget the coordinates. You'll forget the satellite image. You'll forget you ever came here, just like everyone else who's found us. Then why tell me any of this? Because there's another choice. Stay, look into the well, learn what we learned, and then you'll understand why forgetting is mercy. Daniel ran. His flashlight beam bounced wildly as he sprinted through the tunnels, taking turns at random, desperate to find the exit. The voices chased him, growing louder, more insistent. Look into the well, Daniel. See what we saw, know what we know. Be free of ignorance. He burst out of the mine entrance into blinding sunlight. His car was where he'd left it. He jumped in, started the engine, and drove. Fast. The town flashed past. People still walking, still living their eternal October 15th. As he reached the tree line, the GPS on his phone suddenly locked on. The map loaded. He was exactly where he should be. Highway clearly marked. Daniel drove for an hour before pulling over. His hands had finally stopped shaking. He grabbed his laptop and opened the interview files. They were blank. No audio at all. Just empty files. He checked his phone's voice recorder app. The recording from the mine. Deleted. Not by him. His photos from town. Corrupted. Every single one showing nothing but gray static. Daniel pulled up Google Maps and searched for Derringer Falls. No results. He tried to remember the exact coordinates. They were. He couldn't remember. Panic seized him. He grabbed the printed map from his glove box. But the marks he'd made were gone. The paper was blank, except for the standard roads and landmarks. No, he whispered. No, I was just there. I talked to people. I went into the mine. I saw the well. But even as he said it, the memories were fading. Like trying to hold on to a dream after waking. The details slipped away. The woman's face, the hotel room number, the sound of the voices in the mine. What mine? Daniel sat in his car on the side of the highway, feeling something precious evaporating from his mind. He grabbed a notebook and started writing frantically. Derringer Falls, Oregon. Town erased from maps. People trapped in time loop. October 15th, 2014. Mine. Well. Voices. Something at the bottom. They saw something. They chose to forget. I have to remember. I have to. His pen stopped. Why was he writing this? What was he trying to remember? Daniel looked at the notebook. The handwriting was his, but the words made no sense. He must have been tired. He'd been driving all day, researching some story. What story? He couldn't remember. Probably nothing important. He closed the notebook, started the car, and drove back to Portland. By the time he reached the city limits, he'd forgotten he'd ever left. That night, 300 miles away in Seattle, a woman named Sarah Chen was browsing Reddit. She clicked on a thread about Mandela effects and lost places. Someone had posted, "Does anyone remember a town called Derringer Falls? I swear I visited it as a kid, but I can't find it anywhere." Sarah frowned. Derringer Falls. The name tugged at something in her memory. She opened Google Maps and searched for it. Nothing. But in her mind's eye, she could almost see it. A small town in a valley. A main street with old storefronts. A diner with blackberry pie. Had she been there? She couldn't remember. But something about it felt important. Like a word on the tip of her tongue. Sarah was a data analyst specializing in geographic information systems. If this town existed, she could find it. She had access to satellite archives, old census databases, geological surveys. She stayed up all night searching. And in a valley 60 miles south of Portland, in a town that wasn't on any map, the people of Derringer Falls woke up to another October 15th, 2014. They went about their routines, sweeping sidewalks, delivering mail, sitting in diners. None of them noticed the calendar that never changed. None of them remembered the mine or the well or what they'd seen at the bottom. None of them realized they were living the same day, over and over, trapped in a loop of their own making. Because forgetting was mercy, and memory was the price of truth. But deep in the mine, in the chamber with 1,000 names carved into stone, the well waited, patient, eternal. It had shown its truth to 327 souls. It would show it to more. It always did, because there are places the world decides to forget. And then there are places that make you forget you ever wanted to remember them at all. In Portland, Daniel Marsh woke up on October 19th with a strange headache and no memory of the previous day. His car had an extra 80 miles on the odometer. His camera's memory card was empty. His audio recorder showed 3 hours of deleted files. He shrugged it off. Technology glitched sometimes. He grabbed his laptop and checked his email. A potential client wanted him to investigate a deleted corporate database. Standard work. He sent back his rates and started researching. But throughout the day, a word kept floating through his mind. Derringer. Just the word, no context. It felt important, urgent even, but when he tried to grasp why, the thought slipped away like water through his fingers. By evening, he'd forgotten the word entirely. In Seattle, Sarah Chen downloaded 10 years of satellite imagery for a 60-mile radius around Portland. She would find this town. She would prove it existed. She had no idea 12 others had searched before her. And she had no idea that none of them remembered what they'd found. 3 days later, Sarah loaded her car with equipment. 2 cameras, a laptop, professional GPS unit, and a week's worth of supplies. She'd traced anomalies in the satellite data to a specific valley. The images were corrupted, but the geographical displacement was clear. Something was there that the satellites couldn't properly capture. She would drive there, document everything, finally prove that the digital world could hide entire towns if no one bothered to look closely enough. Sarah set her GPS for the coordinates and started driving. The route was clear, the day was bright, and she was certain she'd find answers. At exactly 2:47 p.m., her GPS began to spin. And somewhere in a valley that wasn't on any map, in a town that had erased itself from the world's memory, an elderly woman began sweeping a sidewalk. "Beautiful day," she said to no one in particular. "October 15th always is." In the mine, the well whispered, and the knowing waited. Because some truths are too terrible to remember, and some places understand that mercy and imprisonment are sometimes the same thing. The world forgot Derringer Falls, but Derringer Falls would never forget what it chose to forget. And deep at the bottom of an ancient well, something that was older than memory and darker than forgetting smiled with satisfaction. It had time. It always had time. Because in Derringer Falls, it was always October 15th, and it always would be.